we have to completely reimagine that experience. I see that as the new work ahead of us. This new environment, the new standards of experience and service. How are we now kind of re-engineering what we thought 4 years ago was okay or 3 years ago was okay? We got to refresh that now. I think there's going to be new experiences created as a result. This is Ramón Lopez with USAA, and this is the future of insurance.
This episode is brought to you by HOMEE, the tech-enabled direct repair solution for property claims. From FNOL to final loss payment, HOMEE is there to provide fast, automated support for your insureds, leading to the industry's best-in-class Net Promoter Scores. HOMEE's integrable platform and rich APIs scale with your needs, creating a powerful tool for insurers looking to connect adjusters, policyholders, and service providers in the claims handling process. Using HOMEE's proprietary platform, several Tier 1 carriers are streamlining claim servicing and improving adjuster efficiency tenfold. Visit HOMEE.com to learn how you can digitize your claims handling with HOMEE today. And the Future of Insurance USA 2022 from Reuters Events, taking place this June 14th and 15th at the Marriott Marquis Hotel in Chicago. Join me, senior executives, and thought leaders from across the industry to transform products and services, tackle emerging risks and ESG issues, and strategize for success in a shifting landscape. With speakers like USAA CEO Wayne Peacock, Allianz Life Insurance President and CEO Jasmine Girardi, John Roach, CEO of The Hanover, Marcus Winter, President and CEO of Munich Re US, Rick McCathron, President of Hippo, and so many more. This is going to be a hugely impactful event. Register today at future-of-insurance.com/FOIUSA to save your spot. Can't wait to see you in Chicago this June for the Future of Insurance from Reuters.
Ramon, it's great to get to sit down with you. We got to do a webinar or panel or something together, but before that, I was like swirling around you, talking to people you know, but never actually got a chance to sit down with you. So it's great to get more time with you.
Absolutely.
I always like to make people feel awkward, like it sounds like I'm stalking them, but that's not what I mean.
No way.
So your name came up in the first book. Yeah, I worked with Luke Harris to tell the USA claims innovation story when you were running the team. And I think just as we were wrapping the case up, you were moved off the team into your, not your latest venture, but the next role that you took on. You're running with a personal auto book for USA, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct, for claims.
Can you give people a little like high level, who are you? And then I want to dig into innovation and claims and what's going on at USAA.
Sure, absolutely. So I've been at USAA 18 years, right out of college. I knew I wanted to help the military in some way, shape, or form, if not join the military. USAA was a calling, and right after that senior year of college, I joined the ranks of the adjusting community at USAA. One of the most amazing experiences, a company that really mirrors my core values, is a world-class organization, has an amazing mission to help those who protect us. And so here I am, multiple roles later. I was actually able to serve the military community with USA in another state. So moved the family to Virginia for a few years. Now I'm back in San Antonio, Texas, but it's been an amazing journey, and one which I've been given a lot of opportunity to lead different parts of the organization as well. So it's been a great experience. I love what I do. I love helping military families.
I want to talk about one of those experiences on the innovation team, specifically in the claims that you were leading the team when it was set up, right? Because there was like centralized innovation, and then there were a few specific to some major business units or functions that were set up. Is that right?
That's it. So I was employee number one in the claims innovation team. And here's the situation. Our military community, they're very transient. They're on the move all the time. And we knew we had to grow capabilities within claims. We knew that we had room to grow in the digital space, room to grow in the virtual space, in the payment space. We had so many different aspects, and yet, our teammates in claims were really focused on running a very precision business in the claims operations and in claims staff as well. And we said, we have to set aside some white space, some time to truly think about how to invent the future of claims. And so being employee number one, it was an amazing experience to stand up the team. And we've got a ton of great talent as part of that team.
Ramon, it's striking me as you're mentioning what your members go through and the kinds of situations that they are in. Recently I had Rob Galbraith on, who spent, I think, 18 years, 19 and change at USAA. And he talked about, you've got members who are deployed out in wherever, I mean, literally wherever, with maybe one bar of some kind of connectivity coverage, trying to handle their personal finances, their insurance needs, a claim that, their family back home is going through, whatever it is. The bar for what you need to build to serve someone in that situation is so much more complex and ridiculously higher than any carrier is going to face on the day-to-day here. And then I thought about the pandemic, and it was like this forcing mechanism where suddenly that bar shot up for everyone because you couldn't use any of the tools you had before because we couldn't go out and, you know, use them in person like we had been. So it's almost like, because of the nature of what a big population of your membership base lives throughout their claims experience and other experiences with the company, you were sort of going through that forcing mechanism that everyone else got to experience in the pandemic, but going back, I mean, the entire history of the company, really. Like, you've always been in this sort of, not fight or flight, but extreme customer needs situation. Is that how it feels, like that responsiveness to the situation?
Yes, I would say yes, and that's a really amazing way to articulate it, Brian. So thank you. I think it's very well said. We hold ourselves to a standard that we don't see peers. We see ourselves helping in a community that has seconds, if at any time at all, to reach out to us for help. So yeah, I think yes. I think the second piece though is that you know, people's expectations, even non-military expectations, have changed. And so because of that, during that moment in time where I was able to lead an innovation team, we were able to start building the strategy for the claims organization of the future. And here's the situation. So we built this strategy, we built this multi-year roadmap, and that included modernizing our technology stack, that including a whole new way to do business in a virtual way. And that all was articulated, agreed upon, met with a lot of healthy challenge.
Yeah.
And as we went and said, go, then all of a sudden environmental factors came, right? Then all of a sudden the pandemic came. I mean, I don't know about you, but we started this brand new cloud-based technology modernization journey. And almost immediately afterwards, we were faced with a pandemic, and no one had ever done this in a complete virtual way. We're building brand new technology, all virtual.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'll say is that we had a plan. We had a strategy built, and the pandemic didn't knock us off our plan. It just accelerated our appetite to do things in a very digital way, and at the same time respect those emotional moments where our military families want to actually talk to us.
Yeah. I think what you're describing is a choice, because I've talked to carriers who were in a similar situation and said, oh, so, you know, we had to pause everything. And then I talked to others like yourselves who are like, so actually, you know, we refocused on what is it we're trying to achieve. Yes, there's new, you know, weather conditions have changed or whatever, but we still know what we're trying to deliver, and we need to figure out how to get there.
That's it.
You know, same circumstances, internal and external, but it's the choice of how you choose to navigate that. It's really,
I think the one unicorn aspect too that separates us or gives us additional opportunity is that we are a full financial services organization. So the military community is absolutely transacting in the bank,
yeah,
and doing it in a very digital way. And then when it comes to fulfillment of a claim, it doesn't feel so foreign either, because they have been transacting in a digital way with USAA for multiple years.
Yeah, which also means they have your app, they're using your website anyway. And I mean, having your app is like that standard is so, the bar so low there for most carriers, because it's how often do you need your carrier's app? But for US, I'm a USAA member and I hit that app at least a few times a week. Anyway, one of the things that I want to ask you about is, as we think about coming out of the pandemic, some carriers are relaxing the push that they've had, because it was exhausting. You know, you like force a lot of things out, and it was like, you know, band-aids and 5-hour energy drinks and whatever else to get things done. But others are recognizing there's a way to institutionalize the agility that we realized we have. And, you know, I open the USAA case in the book talking about going virtual when, you know, it was this like long-term, we're going to investigate and then think about how do we possibly implement it, to like 5 days later, you know, mid-March 2020, everyone's virtual, or pretty much. Have you been thinking about, you know, as an industry, when we historically have moved really slow, we give ourselves credit for doing things in a 1 to 2 year cycle instead of 10, and that's like good for us, but it's still slow.
Right.
Have you thought about ways, especially in the claims organization, to keep the fires lit without necessarily burning everybody in the process? Because admittedly, very tough couple of years to do all the things that have been done.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, here's the deal. Number one, I'll get to the end right now. We're not slowing down.
Yeah.
Like we can't slow down. I mean, the amount of supply chain disruption that is in our industry and the amount of turbulent behavior around driving and all types of services related to repair people in home and auto insurance,
Yeah.
it's so dynamic. And what I see is that we actually have to take this new environment and create brand new experiences around it. I mean, I'll give you one quick example. There was a time last year when we were taking too long in our standards to get tow truck drivers out to help our members during those towing situations, right?
Yeah.
And let's face it, a large percentage of the towing market was not available. People, I know companies that had trucks that didn't have drivers.
Yeah.
And that situation is like, it's not acceptable for USAA, for us, to leave our military community stranded for, a long period of time. That created a whole new experience of like, how do we now attach transportation network services to the towing experience? Because we don't want them to wait any longer than they have to. And they need to go to work or pick up a child or go to school, you name it. We have to completely reimagine that experience. I see that as the new work ahead of us, is like this new environment, the new standards of experience and service. How are we now kind of re-engineering what we thought 4 years ago was okay or 3 years ago was okay? We got to refresh that now.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be new experiences created as a result.
Yeah. I think that's a great example, because it sort of doesn't matter how long it takes. It's always too long. And I don't know anyone who's ever said like, oh yeah, the tow truck came right away, even if it's minutes, which usually is at least high double-digit minutes, whether it's call your roadside assistance company or your carrier. But that's like kind of Herculean claims delivery otherwise could be spoiled by that one thing. I mean, that can be said for a lot of pieces of the puzzle, but that's like the first experience in the claim other than getting hit. So it's definitely critical. You all did something with the buzzword blockchain that, like, we've been talking about it for years. There's not a lot to point to materially outside of, like, I always use marine certs. That's like the one place where they grabbed on early. But the work that you did partnering with State Farm on the subrogation side, and thinking about making that open to the industry or letting other carriers into the exchange so that subro can be settled much more efficiently and quickly, and we're not cutting checks back and forth that could have canceled each other out. That takes not just the speed in-house, but the speed of the industry as well for these things to take hold and benefit all of us. And frankly, something like that is kind of worthless with a single carrier. You need multiple partners, or else you don't have the other transacting end. So it doesn't make sense. How do you move the industry then? Because you're not just moving yourselves to make a lot of the things we're trying to work on as an industry better. And you guys have already started to address that. So any learnings for the rest of us of how we can sort of wake up and get moving?
Yeah, it's actually a really great question. I think that there was tremendous learnings outside of the technology of blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
So the tremendous learnings of how do you write the right type of contract with another insurance carrier that ultimately is going to be better for the entire industry. Like that in itself was something we had not done before. So it was like, concept number one. Concept number two was like, if we're going to be building technology, how do we run our technology groups at the same pace, at the same, like overcoming the same obstacles, having the right conversations, the right routines to be on pace with a company that may not deliver like you do? Not saying they're faster or slower, just it may be a different pace.
Just different pace. Yeah.
So I think that was another learning of like, how do you get business leaders, technology leaders, kind of all in the right routines to then build in the right pace to make this all work? I think it's another big learning for us. And then I'll say the last one is, and we haven't fully cracked the nut, is how to really bring the entire industry along. And I think I have a suggestion for everyone out there, but I think everyone's cost of admission to brand new things like this is different. What I mean by that is you could be operating in green screens in a very legacy system that works very well for what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
You're not going to change. You could be on a cloud-based technology architecture for your claims system. The cost of entry may be totally different. And so prioritization across everyone's different technology journey is going to look and feel different. My feedback after coming out of this effort is you have to make the cost of admission very simple for everyone. If you want everyone to join up, you got to build it in a way that can be accessed, that can be reported upon, that you run analysis on so that everyone can benefit from it, versus it's going to take one company 8 months to deliver this. It'll take another company a 2-week cycle. So it's just like architecting in a way that it reduces the cost of admission, I think is a big lesson learned for me for the entire experience.
That's a really good framing of a cost of admission idea. It goes back to what I feel like is the most important technology any of us can have is just flexibility. Like however and there's lots of ways, there's no rule. It could be green screens, it could be anything, but that ability to respond to what your customers have asked of you, what potential partners have asked, or the market is demanding, or the supply chain is thrusting upon you. Finding ways to build flexibility into your approach, because it's not always going to be playing by your rules.
That's it.
There's another collaboration point I want to ask you. Having been at the company for a while and in different pieces of the puzzle, but I get it, a claims guy through and through. Having been a claims guy myself, I was lucky to work in the specialty line space where claims and underwriting are really well integrated. There's a really good feedback loop. Often we sit together, which is kind of foreign to some folks. Like claims and like we would actually pick up and sit down next to each other at side by side desks, which was wild for me coming out of like the large carrier space. But there's a huge benefit to that. Do you see more collaboration or more siloing or kind of ivory towering, if you will, going on in the industry? And do you think that's something we should be trying to break through? How do we do that? And I'm biased. Like I care about claims. I want the claims folks to get pulled into these bigger strategic decisions, but it matters, and it matters for the carrier's performance, especially as we bring in IoT and other tech where underwriting is seeing things, claims is seeing things. How do we bring that together and have the feedback loop more holistically?
Yeah, people ask me sometimes like, who is your team? Who's your first team? Like my first team is the auto product line executive senior leader, the property product line senior leader, the head of underwriting, the head of actuary and analytics. We have an agency here, but like that's my first team.
Yeah.
People say, well, your first team isn't your direct reports, your claim leaders. It's not. Like my first team, who I have routines with, are the head of the property and casualty company, and we make big decisions collectively, and we have routines that are very purposeful, so that claims is not on an island. I think that's what you would probably like hear in some organizations, like, well, hey, claims is over there, they got a thing they're trying to achieve. And like we are definitely a strategic portion of the property and casualty division at USAA. And like, how we think about our strategy is like, I have financial commitments to my product line leaders, and I want them to hold me accountable on those things. And so at the same time, I'm delivering service in a way that it provides that level of like comfort of people stay with USAA, right? So there's just a really strong relationship. I mean, I could say if I have a best friend at work, it's probably those folks that I just named. And I think if you're on an island, or if you're still operating within those silos that we used to kind of operate within, I don't think that's the way to go forward. I would strongly suggest, not being hyper collaborative, but being purposely collaborative to achieve the one mission you're trying to achieve.
Yeah. There is sometimes collaboration for collaboration's sake. And it's like, well, where do we get to? But I think that's advice as much for CEOs and presidents as for heads of claims or underwriting or whoever, because structurally there are carriers where claims is a different business unit, like it's its own operating entity. And there's others, I mean, I've been at some where it's like, well, claims is part of the back office. It's like, it could be, depending how you think about it, or it's the product. And so that's as front office as you get. And if you're not thinking about it that way, you're missing out. And I think mentally, then you end up structuring what level of collaboration and strategic involvement you're going to have. And like we could be talking about claims, HR, IT, it doesn't matter. You can't run the company without any of these things. So how much are you coming together?
And so sometimes people have asked me, Bryan, like, how have you all been able to start your modernization technology journey, started day one, and deliver the first part of it within 3 years?
Yeah.
It's because I'm locked arms with the property and casualty. Like we have a roadmap, I'm locked arms with them. Where I need help, they lean in. But this is not a 8-year, 10-year journey where we're still modernizing. Like we are doing it in a very fast pace.
Yeah. Usually people have a 3-year plan, but they're on year 8 of that 3-year.
That's
So
it.
you guys are actually at the 3-year. And to be fair, I'm sure people know this, but you're not a small organization. Like USAA is a massive company. Putting aside the banking side and anything else you do, just the PNC company is one of the largest writers in the US. And you have people you're dealing with all over the globe in lots of different situations. So it's not like, this is a $100 million single state entity that can just make it happen because it's small. And I mean, you're moving an aircraft carrier.
It's complex,
literally.
for sure.
Yeah. On that is, and this will be the last thing I bother you with, but that analogy, how do you turn an aircraft carrier? And one of the things we would talk about at the last carrier was you don't. That's why you launch jet fighters and helicopters from it, because you can go out. Is that sort of how you think about it? Like, yes, there's this core and you got your 3-year, your digital transformation, but you can't stop everything. So were you thinking about, especially in the innovation side, what are the things we can launch to get out ahead and to interact where we need to while we're waiting for the ship to turn?
It's actually one of my favorite questions. And I get asked that a lot, Brian.
I figure out the military thing that people would use that too much with you.
But I think here's the deal. I think the people I admire in innovation spaces, as well as business leaders, they kind of want to call it all zeros and ones. It's left or right. It's either you got strategic insurgent resources out there, just like doing great stuff, maybe in the shadows, and you have like your operating team, like all these things. But put it this way, is like it really depends on the year in the journey that you're on. In your, like, if you have a digital journey or a transformation journey, like what year are you in? Are you in year 1? Because when I was in year 1, I expanded the innovation agenda within the claims organization. Now, as I'm in year 3, there's a little bit of contraction, and it's not that we're not doing less. We're just prioritizing, focused on these key set of objectives, and we can also see it was kind of coming around the corner. But like, we got to get this done first, and so. But I think everyone kind of thinks like it's going to be one or the other. You're going to have like this certain, but it really depends on when in the journey you're on, and be able to recognize, are we in an expansion time? Are we in a contraction time? But we've got our agenda. We're multiple years in. We have enough of those jet fighters looking out in the future, but we don't need a whole army right now.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's very much depends upon the time on your journey. And for us, like, we've got a great amount of objectives right in front of us, as far as connected products in both home and auto, and how to adjudicate those claims. Like, there's a lot of innovation going on there. This whole technology system we're standing up, a ton of innovation going on there. And so but that's may not be the one that's most popular, like the it depends answer, but it's true. It really does. And if you know the journey you're headed on, that's going to be okay.
Yeah. I think it depends. It's dynamic, because early on, everything was wide open and you had to figure some of that out. And there were lots of possibilities. As you move further down that journey, there's more clarity and purpose and focus. So you can point and shoot a lot more intentionally, and probably with greater impact, because you know exactly where you're heading.
Completely.
You guys you've done a ton with connected things in the past, even just a year, between Nobler and the connected car stuff, which took off really rapidly for USAA, but then also on the home side, you guys are doing things on that piece too. So I can imagine it is a very focused, like there's a lot happening right now, and we got to figure out how do we take the most advantage of that.
And it goes back to, like, if I didn't have such strong partnerships with those product senior level leaders around the PNC table, maybe I'm on a different agenda, and they're delivering products, and I'm not matching my roadmap to meet them where they're at, which just ultimately take longer.
Yeah. Ramon, I could keep you for like 2 more hours. And I would just try and just see like, does he drop off? Thank you so much I know you're crazy busy, but I really appreciate you taking some time out, and it's great to sit down with you again.
It's my pleasure, Brian. Thanks for having me. I'm always willing to come back. Take care.
So great to sit down with Ramon. He's a great guy, and he's really been in not just the frontline roles here, but every aspect of how to make a claims organization even better for your customers, or as USAA calls them, their members, thinking about what those people are dealing with in the claim, but also outside of the claim, and the kinds of tools you need to put in their hands. I think it really did prep them for the kind of response that all of us have had to have over the past couple of years with the pandemic and everything that's happened on the back of that. But for USAA, it's sort of the way that they do things. And I think, to Ramon's point, you can try a lot of different things. You can have lots of different innovation projects going on. And as the story gets clearer, you can refine that and you can figure out where you need to be pointing and shooting and implementing and pushing the line forward for what you could do, what the possible really looks like, and the experience you can give your customers, the experience you can give your partners, your distribution partners, your solution providers, maybe it's competitors or peers who you're working with. Push that line forward. And as you said, be flexible, because we all move at different paces. And if you are trying to move fast but can't flex to the styles and pace of all the various other parties you need to work with, you can break the whole thing. So that flexibility mindset, responsiveness, it's really critical. Ramon's a great guy. Great thoughts on what claims can mean to an organization and how to navigate that. I appreciate that obviously very much. I know I said that in the interview. It was great to sit down with him. So thank you to Ramón for making some time. He has plenty on his plate. So that was a big ask. And I'm so glad that he was able to do that. Thank you to all of you for tuning in. Thank you to HOMEE for sponsoring this episode. I hope you join me next time. I have a special episode. I like to close each season with something a little bit different. So I'm going to be the guest, and I have a special guest interviewer who I've wanted to connect with for a really long time. I'm so psyched that she took the time to do this and do me the favor of interviewing me for my show. So stay tuned for next time. Great discussion about something I think is really profound and interesting that is brewing in PNC. Watch for it, because if you don't, you're going to miss it, and you're going to miss the chance to stay relevant, be a part of where the industry is going. I think it's a really important conversation. So that's coming next time. I hope to see you again for another episode of The Future of Insurance. Thanks, everyone.